Hi, everybody. So my name is Tzvi Sperber, and I wanted to think about how am I going to follow Rabbi Sachs, even as the co-founder and director of JRoots. So one of the ways to do it is to bring in a lifelong friend, Rachel Fink, who is the head teacher of the largest and the oldest Jewish school in Europe. It's an honor and a privilege to have you. Maybe we'll be able to have a cup of coffee together very soon. Okay, but now we're going to do this by computer. Thank you very much for joining us. We're going to be speaking today about the remarkable journey that we've both taken, and I have had the privilege of guiding hundreds of groups throughout Poland and other places across the globe. So thank you very much, Rachel.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to be here. It's a privilege to follow Rabbi Sachs. I'm sitting in my office room with his current book, Morality, literally next to my desk, which I'm trying to get finished before Thursday, when I know he's speaking about it. And I was listening to him talk about his readings about the Shoah. When he needs inspiration, he goes back to the books of survivors. And I'm always asked what's my favorite book, and it's certainly Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. And when we rushed to pack up school when we were closing, and I was taking books off my bookshelf at school, that's the book I took with me alongside Eager's The Choice, because they are books that give me inspiration.
Great.
Okay, so I'd like to actually ask you a few questions. We've done some journeys. We've done quite a few of those journeys together in schools that I have led and lead. But I'm interested in not only how you got involved in doing journeys to Poland, but perhaps more importantly, why you got involved.
Okay, so I think if we take a step back, how did I get involved with this? It goes all the way back to when I was a kid. Growing up in Kenton, in London, in Bnei Akiva, we read a number of books, but I remember even as a very, very young age reading Night by Elie Wiesel, which really had a major effect on me. And there was a poster, and I've tried to find it ever since, a picture. If you remember as well, we were on a trip together, I think, to Manchester, where we met the little boy who raised his hands.
Yes.
Okay, in the Warsaw Ghetto. It was photographed coming out of the bunker in the Warsaw Ghetto with his hands raised. That was another pivotal moment in my life, meeting him. If I remember rightly, the bus actually drove off on the way home at Watford Gap, leaving us all sitting at the side of the road. But there was another thing that also took place, and that was this poster of a man trying to bring heaven down so that we'll hear. And his arm was covered in barbed wire with blood. And I was trying to understand what it meant. And for me, it was heaven to hear what the survivors have to say. And if Shamayim has to hear it, surely we have to hear it as well. Okay, what's taking place, what happened then, okay, and their stories and everything they're giving to the world. There are so many different things that I've really learnt by being able to be involved in Holocaust journeys. And I'm not just going to call them Holocaust journeys because they're Jewish journeys. It's the role of immersive Jewish experience. It's the role of making sure that we're finding a different way to be able to give over the information and to be able to touch as many people as possible. Okay, even in the short time that we have. I'll quote my wife, Liv, who said to me very early on that I would never let you travel as much as I travel for business. But the fact is, we have the potential, all of us that are involved in Jewish education, in changing the world and changing people's lives in a very, very short time. This is a powerful, powerful journey that I think is beyond anything else that we've managed to touch as Jewish educators. And we've been involved in Jewish education, both of us, okay, for many, many years. And we've tried from all different angles how to get there. And this is a hugely powerful journey that any one of our participants who have been on these journeys, whether through the schools or other types of journeys that you have taken, or whether through all the different types of people that I've taken, have been sincerely touched by.
I agree, and having taken a lot of those journeys with you and understanding what is truly powerful Jewish education, thinking about the different groups that you have taken on these journeys, can you describe some of them? And actually, what are the similarities between those groups and what are the differences between them?
So I've taken everyone from across the gamut. I mean, we're talking about, if you have to label people, which I hate doing, people who would consider themselves right of center of ultra orthodoxy, to really to people who are very unaffiliated. Maybe they don't even, never went to Jewish schools, they were never affiliated with the synagogue, but they had this desire, this deep thirst to learn something about the Shoah. I certainly have, that I would say that when I look at the, if you want, the clientele of JRoots, we're taking everybody across the board. You know, I'll never forget sitting in the Warsaw Ghetto with Beis Yaakov School from London, and being, okay, there are many moments in my life that have been touched, okay, from people who have never had an affiliation with anything Jewish. The question is there a similarity between them? And the answer is yes. I think the similarities are much closer than the differences. You know, we think that we're a very, very divided people, but in effect, we're so much more similar. We've understood a clear message that survivors have told us time and again. Standing on the ramp in Auschwitz, where they were divided between their parents, some of them had their mothers on one side or their fathers on the other side, whatever it meant. And the last words that were being screamed across that ramp, those words, Bleibe Yid, stay a Jew. That's a word, or that's something which doesn't matter who we are, where we've come from, what our religious backgrounds are, the different types of places that we live, whatever it may be. It touches an inner chord of every one of us as a Jew. It touches the inner chord of every one of us that are on that journey. And it doesn't matter how religious a person may think he is, or how, if you want, unaffiliated a person may think he is. Every one of us is touched by that. Every one of us understands what our message is in life. Every one of us understands that we have to keep marching forward together as one people. And even though we may feel that we're very divided, I actually think that a program or an immersive Jewish experience like this strips down all the layers between people, brings the masks off, and you become real.
So as somebody who's been involved in Jewish education at school level for many years, and particularly secondary education, why do you think these types of journeys are particularly important for young people? We tend to take students who are 16, 17 years old. Many of them will have had the opportunity to have an Israel tour in the summer previously and go to Israel with their schools. And then we're suggesting that they go to Poland not long after that. So why is it an important time for them?
So it's a pivotal time in their life, I think. I mean, I'm going to chuck this back at you as well after I've spoken, being the head teacher both of JFS today and of Hasmonean Girls beforehand, and being involved in the Hasmonean Boys trip as well as many others that you did before that. But it's a pivotal time in people's life. You know, we want to ask people questions about who they are, questions that they can start to think again about what does it mean to be what I'm living for today. And yes, it's true, it might be a little too early at the school age to get to that, but people are starting to think about those things. Remember, we have these people for another year, maybe after their Poland journey, before they go off to university. And then if the UJS in England or Hillel's or wherever, or other organizations like AISH and many other organizations that are working on campuses throughout Ma'or, and I can list the names of all the Olami projects and everybody, okay, don't manage, unfortunately, to keep these people connected, and Chabad and everybody else, then we might have lost them. Here, we're able to give that pivotal question that we're starting to sow the seeds that people need. Now, we're fighting against something today. There's no doubt about it. People are asleep because we're a screen generation. We are. Right? We want, you know, today, unfortunately, we've been forced into this situation. We'd rather not do it this way, we'd rather do it frontally, but we have to do it through the screen. But people flick through different things. People don't read as well as they once did because they're just flicking and flitting across the screen. And they want to be able to be pumped with different messages and pictures and whatever else it may be. This is one of the only times where you can actually bring them out of the screen, stand them in a place, and let them touch reality. As I said before, it strips you down. You're touching the core, you're becoming raw, exactly what it means. What does it mean to be a human being in this world? What does it mean to be a Jew in this world? We want them to be so connected to Israel. We want them to be touched by what happens here in this country. Every one of us that sends that is involved in Israel education or sends our kids to Israel, we're doing it for a reason, because we want them to be attached and connected to this country. But thank God, here in Israel, I always say to educators, you have a person in Israel from, I don't know, 8 to 5, 8 to 6, because they feel at home. They feel so at home in this country, even if they've never been here before. You take them out of the place where they're comfortable, and you bring them to a place like Poland or to other places like that. They all of a sudden are not so comfortable with where they are. They all of a sudden are prepared to listen and to rely and to be able to take them on a journey. They're ready to go into that. When people ask me about Poland, what it is, I think it doesn't matter what age it is. If I use the English term of an MOT, or the term that we have in Israel of a test, or any type of test that you do on a car, every now and again you have to have that test in the car to make sure the car runs. And when you take off all 4 wheels on that car and you put new 4 tires on that car, they have to be realigned. Poland is that aligning of a person again. It's allowing him to once again get back on the path. And I think these times where we have them just before they're about to leave, just before they're about to go, and I'm going to say this, adults, it's as important as kids, as teenagers, young adults, okay, to take them on these journeys as well. But you are the headmistress of the largest and the oldest Jewish school in London. What was your thought about it?
So I think as well, I think that there are some challenges of taking students at this age, and it's certainly a journey that perhaps not everybody is ready to address and deal with. But I think that as an educator, when I say to people, what's the difference between having a children in a Jewish school and a regular school? We know that we want our children primarily to go to school to get a great education so that they can move on in life. But there's got to be something more as to why you go to a Jewish school. And certainly for me, it's about every student finding the way in which they connect to Israel and who they are, and how they understand that they are also a link in the chain, that they have a unique purpose. And I think helping them connect to their Judaism, particularly in this kind of journey, taking them away, like you say, from the regular aspects of their lives, some of the things that are important, some perhaps less important, but perhaps important to them. I think, like you say, you take the masks off, you're standing in places that it's just you and your thoughts and yourself. It happens to me as an adult every time I accompany a group and people say, how do you keep going? I said, actually, it's an opportunity for me to realize why am I doing what I do in terms of my lifelong career, and why it's important to me to stay in Jewish education and deal with that. And I think it's the same for the students as well. Many of them only work it out at that age. They've had many, many years, not only of secondary school, but primary school Jewish education and lots of Jewish experiences. And this is a chance for them to step away, step into something really real, and collect all their thoughts of all those experiences together to channel them moving forward. And I think it's also a way of, more broadly speaking, creating stronger communities in the future. So being cognizant of the individual as well as and the community at the same time.
Absolutely.
Tell me something. You, like you say, you've been hundreds and hundreds of journeys. Can you share 1 or 2 experiences that have left their mark on you personally amongst those many journeys? I know I have my moments. I'm sure you have yours.
I mean, one of those moments is with you. Okay, there's no doubt about it. The moment of when you were speaking about your children, it's Bilatov Gabor, one of the children's grades where many children unfortunately lost their lives. It was a very powerful moment standing there with Hashoah girls, which was a very, very powerful journey itself. But there are many moments that I've had. I don't think I can let this moment go past without mentioning Bethany, okay, Dubik from Penn University, Pittsburgh, I think, University of Pittsburgh. I've taken many journeys in my life, and one of those things which hit me, I don't know, like a sledgehammer, it was like a semi-trailer hitting me, was understanding that I've got a girl on this trip who 26 of her family were burnt in a barn in Yadvabna. And she's never been back, the family had never been back. And it just dawned on me on that morning what we were dealing with. To stand there with her, to tell her the story, to see that I've got a living relative of one of the terrible atrocities that took place within Poland, standing there was definitely a moment for me. There have been so many moments, whether it's standing there with survivors, some of the people that you saw already, if you've been watching the JRoots program, whether Leslie, who stood in a barrack and told God that I've got no friends, would you be my friend? Whether Bobby, who told me when she turned around and she said, that's my bed, pointing at a bed in Auschwitz. Okay, standing with survivors who point out where they had a Pesach Seder. Okay, just incredible moments that I never thought, how am I as a Jewish educator ever going to touch those moments? And meeting people along the way. You just now heard from Rachel Katzner before Rabbi Sachs about Paulina, one of the mightiest amongst the nations that all of us have been touched by, as well as Miroslava and so many other people who risked their lives to save Jewish people. And we can't really forget somebody who's a living legend with so many of our journeys, Mirek, who in Lancer, a man who's looked after the synagogue in Lancer, okay, which I used to call into before it was actually years and years ago. And Dubova Tarnowska, for those of us that remember that synagogue when it was in a dump. But this man who's taught himself Hebrew, looking after a synagogue, speaks Hebrew, but better than English, done it by himself and not Jewish. There's been so many moments along the way that have touched me, and I think really have made me a better person. And it's not about wealth, the money, it's about how rich you feel inside. And you become a richer person by meeting these people, by touching these people, by going with everyone. And again, there are so many journeys that I've done, and every one of them has touched me in a deep and profound way. Every one of them. And even the people I haven't mentioned, every one of them. And all the Jewish educators that I've been with as well. I can't really pinpoint it within half an hour. I could speak for hours and days about it.
I'm sure you could. And I also have, Mirek is somebody, and I always use him as an example with the students in England who don't speak Ivrit. And I say, look, he puts you to shame. I think for me as well, knowing, I remember my phone once went off when we were with a group in the Lodge Cemetery. We were about to go and stand by the graves of some Bnei Akiva Chanichin, where you can see their shirts and the Bnei Akiva flags. And at that moment, my phone awkwardly went off, but it was my son at the end of the phone telling me that he had got a new job and he was also going into Jewish education. So, and knowing that he had come up through Bnei Akiva, I was really feeling the strength of the links in that chain. And particularly this Yom HaShoah, knowing that I've often spoke about parenting at Zbilatowska and had the privilege to talk to my own children standing in front of me, and one of whom herself has now become a mother, you feel it on days like this. You understand what it means to be a parent, and it puts really into really stark reality why we're doing what we're doing, that we are all here to perpetuate this wonderful nation in our own unique ways. Perhaps as we sort of draw to a close, you were thinking about the current situation that we're in. We're locked in our homes, we're locked away from our friends and our families. What have you learned along the way about yourself, perhaps about humanity, and about each of us as individuals?
A very deep question.
Oh, I like to test you.
I first of all, there's no doubt about it, the COVID-19, the coronavirus, has taught us a lot. Those of us that watched Serena Quint this morning in a heartbreaking moment when she opened up and she spoke about the idea of standing there alone on her balcony, feeling so alone, okay, as a Holocaust survivor. But at the same time, knowing that so many people are wrapped around with warmth during this time period. People are taking care of people. Okay, we all know people who are going out, making sure that the elderly are looked after. all the different communities that I'm involved with and I'm speaking to, okay, how much care they've dealt with their people who are in need. There's no doubt about it. And I think that with this time, we've really been able to see the half full cup of humanity. Okay, we look so much at the negativity of what people, what the world looks like, how people are doing this and that and everything else, and all the differences and arguments that we have and everything that takes place. I live in a country which is very divided, as you know, Israel, the Jewish people, we're always quite divided, and God willing that we'll be more and more united. But this times of trouble bring us together. There's no doubt about it. And even though we're locked up in our house, we feel so united with the people that are across the road. How many times do you get to speak to all your neighbors there? I stand on the balcony and I daven and I pray at a Milpeset Minyan, a balcony minyan at the present moment, with all of my neighbors that I rarely see all the time. I'm seeing them now more and more. We're caring for each other. We're making sure that everyone's okay. And I think that we really have felt that during this time period. Doesn't matter which community that you're part of. Look at how good people are. Look at how great we all are. We are all really, at the end of the day, we're a small part of humanity, but that small part, we all build the puzzle to make what it means to be a beautiful people. God willing, that should continue there even after these times of strife. And I know that we have to finish. And one of those extra people that have been brought into the world is your granddaughter. Okay.
Yes. And
we have to wish you Mazal Tov for that, to you and Stuart. And
thank you very much.
And I really, really want to thank you so much for joining me and the rest of the world now today on Yom HaShoah. As Yom HaShoah comes to a close here in Israel, but we've got much more content that's happening throughout until basically 3 o'clock in the morning Israel time, with the US and with North America, with all their content that we're continuing to run. Please continue to stay on the Facebook channel and the YouTube channel. Continue to send your chats and your comments, like us, follow us, and just be part of what's so important that we were able to do. Remember, the words "never again" is just a bumper sticker. We want to make sure that we learn to build and continue to make our people a great people. We can put the sticker on the back of the car. It's not going to do anything. Let's build together. And I want to thank all the people that have been on those journeys with me and with the rest of the JRoots staff. Okay, all my educators, I want to thank them all. Okay, myself and Naftali, on behalf of both of us, I want to thank you all. And Rachel, you too have given us support, okay, throughout the times. So please stay connected, and thank you very, very much for being with us. Okay, straight after us now.